Hey guys, it's Christy. So before I even start, I have to tell you a funny story. I have been sitting here in this chair having a conversation with you guys, and I got almost all the way to the end and realized that my phone was not recording. So that kind of cracks me up. Just these little glitches. I've said before that everything I put out here is a no script, obviously, and just fly by the pants thing. So it's kind of funny that I got almost to the end and I was feeling pretty good about it. And then I realized it wasn't even recording. Anyway, let me make sure this thing's recording. And yes, it is. Today's post is about James Beard because it's his birthday. So May 5th is James Beard's birthday. Also Cinco de Mayo, but in this case, we're going to focus on James Beard. James Beard is one of my earliest influences. He was born in 1903, I believe, right? I should know this now that I'm doing it for a second time. 1903, so he would be 121 years old today. He died at the age of 82. Big man. Big in spirit and in stature. And he has been variously called the father of American cuisine and the dean of American cuisine, however you want to term that. But he was one of the first promoters of American food, as opposed to back at that time, it was all about French food. And Americans were basically eating, were not proud of their food. Let's put it that way, because I was going to say most people were eating like frozen food, but that's not true. My grandmothers were having a garden and they were still killing their own chickens and blah, blah, blah. But the idea of American food as something with its own value was not really recognized at that time. So James Beard definitely affected that, started promoting and celebrating American food instead of just French food. Well, it was way before everybody started talking about Mediterranean food too. So anyway, again, he's one of my earliest influencers. And I bought my first book in 1984. I only have 7, which really surprises me because I thought I had way more than that. But I have looked around my library and I don't know where they've gotten off to, because I think of myself as pretty organized when it comes to my cookbooks. But at the same time, I know there was a time when I sold some things off. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. I have 7. My first one was purchased in 1984, back when I lived in West Germany, and we had a very, very small bookstore. So there weren't a lot of cookbooks to choose from. So maybe that's part of the reason why I gravitated to him. In any case, he has actually written 32 books. 32. I only have 7. So I'm going to have to start looking at that. In any case, one of the other fun things that I do have from him that is not a book is this magazine, Cuisine Magazine, which has been out of print forever. But this is from 1983. And on the front, you get his bald head. And then when you open it, you get the front of him, which I just think is adorable. Anyway, the magazine, again, has been out of print for a long time. But they focus on his kitchen in this magazine, and I've just carried it around for so long. Another thing I want to say about James Beard really quickly is because when we think of early food television, we think of Julia Child, of course, one of my all-time angels, but he actually precedes her by many, many years, and apparently he wasn't very good at it, because he got on television in 1946. He had a show called I Love to Eat. It didn't even last a year. So that started in 1946, and Julia started in 1961. So that tells you that he really was kind of ahead of her in that genre. That being said, they turned out to be good friends. He's just older than her, or was older than her. So in any case, we will talk about some of his cookbooks, at least the ones that I own, if I don't buy more before we finally get to him in the future. But since we've been talking about Chez Panisse, I thought instead of talking about James Beard's actual cookbooks today, we would talk about a menu that Alice Waters and her group cooked for James Beard when he came to the restaurant. So in the Chez Panisse Menu Cookbook, there is an entry for a menu that they cooked for James Beard, and I'll read it to you really quickly. So, whole baked garlic with white cheese and peasant bread, spit roasted squab with anchovy olive butter, new potatoes in parchment, garden salad, and Linda's chocolate cups. She says, "This is a menu I cooked for James Beard when he came to the restaurant. I tried to think of a way to cook garlic he might not have tried and came up with this now infamous recipe." I find that really interesting because I don't doubt that at the time that he came to this restaurant, and there's no actual date here, but being that this book was published in 1982 and he died in 1985, you can kind of gather some timeline there. I'm quite sure that eating whole garlic heads was not common in the United States. Whereas now, of course, you could probably get it at Applebee's, right? It's totally normal. That's what I love about reading older cookbooks, because you kind of see how food evolved. So anyway, the rest of this says, "The chocolate cups at the end were inspired by a story he told my friend who makes chocolate. Once, 20 years ago in Switzerland, when his after-dinner coffee was served, tiny molded chocolate cups filled with cream accompanied it. Then the entire mold, cream and all, was dropped into the coffee, which created a divine melange of bittersweet chocolate, sweet cream, and coffee." So again, she does not give a date for when this happened. But I do actually really enjoy this book. Again, Chez Panisse Menu Cookbook. There's a lot of fun menus in here, and there's a lot of good recipes. And it fits into my little theme, right? You can't really call Alice Waters a Chez Panisse alum, being that she's still involved. So to me, alum means you're no longer there. But from the beginning to now, she's still involved. So that's super cool. And again, I actually have my bubbles here for Mr. Beard. So happy birthday. Cheers.